So, overview. Last summer, UUNA TEK, a pen plotting company that I like, you can look them up online, they make all kinds of pen plotters. And just for a quick reference, a pen plotter is a CNC-like machine that uses pens to draw over the surface. You use any kind of papers that you like, nice papers, like museum quality papers, nice inks and really good ink pens. And you get a quite a bit different look than you would from printing. So everybody always asks, why do you want to do pen plotting? That's why. It's a completely different look than just printing or any other method. So beyond that, I decided to order one of their Tech 3s, and that's what you see here. Now this came shipped, it came freight and shipped in a crate. So if you like getting Indiana Jones like packages at your doorstep, this would be something to order. So this one is actually, we'll do a plot of 23.4 by 33.1, and it's A1 size. They make the A3 size, A2 size, A3, A0. Those are kind of the standard ones. And then I think if you want, you could ask them, they can make different sizes of this too if you want something completely large. Now I want to say, like, just getting it out of the crate, you might want to have another person as well, because it's not super heavy. It is heavy, but it's not super heavy that you couldn't pick it up, but it's a little awkward. So it's better having two people handle it. And also, if you're going to get a plotter this size, think about the furniture that you might put this on, because this is I think this is a 30 by 30 IKEA table, I think. And it kind of fits on it, but you really need like a 32-inch table by a 40-inch table, which is an odd size. But I think this is kind of working right now. So there's that. So let's talk about what came with this plotter, okay? So here we go. Of course, it came with a power supply, and then it came with a couple of different well, let's do these. It came with a USB cable, of course, and it came with a couple of different, it came with a pin registration. So what you do is you lower the pin onto this little 3mm piece of acrylic, and that's your distance that the pin will go down before it hits the paper. So that's a little handy thing. Now I make them out of, I have a laser cutter, so I just make my little alien heads and then use that as my pen thing. But anyway, it's any 3mm piece of acrylic, or you could 3D print them as well. And then it came with a bunch of magnets. So the magnets are really handy because what you do is you put your paper down and you use these little magnets with a steel base to hold down your paper. So, and the last thing I was going to talk about here was that it comes with, the one it came with at first was the pen holder, this red one here. It's actually round and it will do really fat pins. So if you have a fat marker, it'll take those in. I like this one better. It's the black one here. And this black one has like a V cutout in the back of it so that it holds the pins straight and vertical. So I do lots of multicolor, multi-level layer kind of pieces, and when you put the pin in, you want the tip of the pin to be kind of in the same spot every time so they register together. So this pin holder, the black one, actually holds it in a nice registration point of view. So the Tech 3 has a pretty robust pen plotter head. This is the pen holder. Now there's a couple different ones that came out. This one here, I don't know if you can see that right, but this pen holder here, the red part, is round on the inside. And while that works with a lot of pens, like big fat pens if you're going to use them, it tends not to hold other ones right in a line. So they made a new one, this black one here, and when you put a pen in here, and they give you these little piece of acrylic, it's a 3mm acrylic, and you just put this underneath the pin, and that's your height guide for setting up your pin. But I have a laser cutter, so I do neon alien heads instead. So we'll put the alien head here, and we'll put the pin in, and just unscrew these a little bit, drop them down. And this one you can see, I can't move this pin at all in here now because it's set in the back, so it's aligned. Why is that important? It's important because when you're doing multiple pins and multiple layers with multiple colors, you want them all to be in a line. So by having that registration in the back, you have a very solid point to get that tip or that nib in the exact same spot every time. So once you get the pin in there, you just take the little alien head along, or the little cube they gave you, and you're ready to go. key points about this, this head though, is that it's rack and pinion. So instead of just lifting with a servo or whatnot, like a lot of other pen plotters do, which work perfectly fine, I have many of them, this one actually has a power rack and pinion gear that goes up and down. So it really has enough power to do it. And you'll see what happened just there. When I go down, that pin will hit the ground there, right? But it doesn't go, I can keep going and the pin doesn't keep going down because this is on a carriage. So there's a spring carriage, and on the other side here, there's a little spring right here that you can remove the tension on. And what that allows it to do is it allows the pen to flow over a surface. You can have a pretty flat surface, but paper, kind of warps. Even if you put a little ink on paper, if you put like a Sharpie or some really wet inks, you'll get some warping in the paper. And by having this flexion in the pen that goes up and down, this pen will just ride up and down along the surface of that paper. So that's pretty good. Now for some fun stuff. This was the first thing I did when I got the Tech 3 plotter. It's just very simple and kind of small. I just wanted something quick that I could put on the plotter to see if it worked. And I was able to get the whole plotter running and print this out in 4 different colors in about 30 minutes to an hour. So some of the drivers had a couple of tricks to them, but if you watch all the videos that they have online, they're pretty self-explanatory in setting them up, and it shouldn't take you any time at all. So it was very quick to set up the plotter. Now, I don't do generative stuff like this most of the time. I do more graphic design or big filled areas, very pop art kind of things. And this is on a wood panel. I often do wood panels instead of frames because I think they look pretty good, and they're a lot cheaper than a lot of frames. I've also been experimenting a lot with CMYK, so it's cyan, magenta, and yellow pens. Cyan, magenta, yellow pen, and black for a full color view. Now you don't get a full color look, but you get interesting looks, and it takes a little bit of practice. This is one of the first ones I did, and I did this one for the Halloween contest that UUNA TEK had. Sadly, I did not win, but I thought it was a pretty good sugar skull. Anyway, so there's that. But let's get into the software. This is the UUNA TEK Tech 3 software. And if you look in this menu here, you will see lots of stuff, and you will see a very detailed program for a lot of things. Now, don't get scared if you open this up and it's looks complicated. There's a lot of stuff in here that I don't use. A lot of this is for handwriting, for letter writing, for envelopes, for invitation stuff. There's a lot of people that do that kind of work, and that's great. And this program does all of that. But what I usually use is just the SVG feature down here. So if you go into that area and then you hit open, and I'm just going to load a comic thing I did. This is a UFO blowing up a city. I thought it was pretty cool. But you'll see what it did is this color button up here, if I turn that off, this is actually all the vectors that it's actually going to draw. But when it loads it in, it actually will color separate it because in the file in Illustrator, I've separated this out into layers. And so it knows those layers and it's put them in a channel over here. So when you go to plot this, you just want to turn these off. And now you have like cyans showing. So you put your cyan pen in and then you hit plot. And that's all there is to it. And then you go to the next one, next one. It's a very simple program to use. It really is just meant as a print driver or a plot driver. So you load your graphic in and it exports it out to the plotter. So that's as simple as it gets. Now the tried and true method that a lot of people have always used is Inkscape. So I'm not going to go into all the details of how to install Inkscape, but here's the extension. So you go to extensions, you go to UUNA TEK Tech 3 plotter there, bring it up. It looks similar to the old one, but a little bit different. You want to change your serial port COM port if you're using a PC. I think it comes up automatically on the Mac. I'm not sure. I haven't tried it yet. The other thing you want to really change is the XY work area. Now, it comes default, the driver comes default is for an A3. So I've changed this to the A1. When I first tried it, I was getting errors because it thought the work that I was drawing was outside the work area. So just make sure you have that set to the size of plotter that you've got. And then the last one is the machine ID. You grab that from the program that I just showed you, the Tech 3 software program, paste that in here and you're good to go. Now it works a little bit differently. You can actually see a little bit happening behind the scenes. Usually in old Inkscape, you would just hit go and then the whole Inkscape locks up and you can't see anything going. But this at least gives you some feedback and ways to pause and things like that. So let me show you that. So when I hit apply, it's going to generate a bunch of G code here, right? So it takes a little bit of time. This is This graphic I have back here is a generative thing. I just wanted to do something simple that's a single line. It's like one line that just kind of loops around itself. And the reason I want to do that is I want to show how fast this plotter is. But this G code should pop up any second now. There we go. So now you have a controller. So this is better than the old Inkscape interface, because now I can pause, I can continue, I can stop, I can switch the, if I hit pause, I can change the pin out, all that kind of stuff. So let's just hit print. It should say plot in my opinion, but we'll go with print. So we go, yes, confirm run. And now you'll hear the plotter in the background starting to go, and it's going to run the G code by. So now the thing that's plotting is, like I said, a single line. So it put the pin down, and then it's just going to draw these big loops and loops and loops and more loops over each other, right? And why I wanted to show this is I wanted to show you how fast this plotter actually is. I'm just going to hit stop on this so we get the plotter stopped back there. But so as you watch this draw, it is drawing extremely fast. And that image that it's drawing is about 20 inches by 16 inches. So it's a very large image. Now, not all graphics that I do are a single line. You have to put the pin up and down, and that's where it takes time. Every time you put that pin up, it takes a little bit of time, or the travel moves between things take time. So the other graphic I have here is a mid-century modern graphic, and it has fill areas. Now, fill areas always have to be hatch filled. So it has to be a single line, and that single line is then filled with whatever pin color you have in there. So these are just cross-hatch filled. And the colors that I did for this mid-century modern piece is they finished in about 20 minutes. And if you've ever done any laser etching, or you've done any fills of any kind in like a 3D printer or anything, you know that the fill time is really laborious and slow. So even on these fill patterns, it's pretty darn fast. And now I've got this cranked up to like the top speed as well, right? The top speed for this, I forget what the number is off the top of my head, but I've got it almost to the top speed, and the lines are still lining up almost perfectly. They're really almost dead on for everything. And that could just be an error. The error that I'm seeing could just be me putting the pin in the plotter. So it's pretty darn accurate even at high speed. So that's pretty impressive. So there's a little demo of the plotter, and let's go out of this program here. So let me kill this, and get rid of that. And go into the last way you can run this. There's another way too, but I'm not going to go into it today. The last way I'm going to show you today is light burn. Now I have lasers. I have a couple of lasers, and I use light burn all the time. I really like light burn. Is it the right program for plotting? Maybe, maybe not. I'm not sure, but it does work as well if you're more comfortable with this kind of a program. So if you go into the machine settings, first you set up your whole machine as a gerbil. There is a video, again, online showing you how to set up any of the UUNA TEK products with light burn. You set up as a gerbil device, define your work area, and so on. But once you get there, there's this one control that you need to switch on here called Enable Z-Axis. Now its default is off, right? So default, turn that puppy on. Once you get that on, you hit OK. And then I've drawn a circle here on the screen. So this would just draw a one-line circle. But if you go into the layer of this, bring up the layer palette, the little attributes for it, you can see that the Z offset right here is 0. So when you set up your pin on your plotter, usually on this particular plotter, it's 3 millimeters above, or the thickness of a piece of acrylic. So I make this little alien head. You set the pin on top of this. That's the distance. You take this away, and that's the distance it is from the paper. So what you want to do in the Z offset is you want to hit -3. So once you have that, once you go to start your plot, it will actually drive the plotter. Now, what it won't do is there are, over here on this other side, there's fill mode, offset fill mode. Those will not work. That would be neat if they did work, but they do not work. There is a way to get them to work, but it's a more advanced insertion of G-code kind of stuff, so I'm not going to go into that. So if you want to use this and try it out at least, you can go to line mode, and there is a free 15-day thing you can get on Lightburn. And I don't think Lightburn's that expensive in general anyway. For the power of this program for running my lasers, it's a really bargain. So there you go. That's an overview of the Tech 3 plotter. I hope you enjoyed seeing it in action, and look forward to more plotting in the future.